Welcome, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about something you may celebrate every year, but don't truly understand. We see it everywhere. Hearts, chocolates, roses, people saying Happy Valentine's Day. But what is Valentine's Day? Really? Where did it come from? Why do we celebrate love on February 14th? Is it just a holiday for couples? Or is there something much deeper? Something you were never told? Because behind this one day of gifts and romance, there is a real man, a secret, a sacrifice, a story that begins not in a restaurant, but inside the dark walls of the Roman Empire, where love was banned. This is not just a story of Valentine's Day. This is the story of what it means to truly love, even when the world is against you. And as you listen to this story, you're also improving your English with real history, simple words, and powerful storytelling. So if you want to learn more English through emotional, true stories like this, subscribe to our channel, because we don't just teach English, we make it unforgettable. Chapter 1. The World Before Love. The Roman Empire, 3rd century. The year is around 250 AD. You are living in the Roman Empire, the largest and most powerful empire in the world at that time. But it's not a peaceful time. Rome is at war, fighting against enemies from the outside and dealing with rebellion inside. Soldiers are dying. Enemies are growing. And the Emperor Claudius II is worried. He believes he has found the answer: stronger soldiers. And how do you make soldiers stronger? Remove love. That's what he believes. Emperor Claudius II made a shocking decision. He believed that when men get married, they become weak. Why? Because they start to think about their wives, their children, their home. They no longer want to die for war. They want to live for their family. So he made a new rule. Marriage is banned. No man in the Roman army was allowed to marry. No wedding, no commitment, no family. If you wanted to serve the empire, you had to give up love. Imagine this world now. You fall in love. You want to marry. You want to build a home. But the government says no. Thousands of young couples cried in silence. They couldn't get married. They couldn't start a life together. They were forced to live like strangers. People were scared. They whispered their love in dark corners. They avoided soldiers. They stopped dreaming. But someone was watching this pain. Someone who believed that love should never be a crime. And his name was Valentine. The empire was silent. No weddings, no celebrations, no love stories. But inside that silence, one man was not afraid. His name was Valentine. He was a Christian priest living in Rome. But more than that, he was a believer in something the empire had forgotten: the power of love. Who was Valentine? Valentine was not a king, not a soldier, not a man of war. He was a quiet priest who believed in faith, kindness, and compassion. In a time when Christianity was still illegal in Rome, he was already taking risks just by living his truth. But what made him different was this: he believed marriage was sacred. He believed two people who loved each other had a right, a divine right, to be united. So when Emperor Claudius banned marriage, Valentine didn't stay silent. He didn't go to war. He didn't give speeches in public. He didn't fight with weapons. Instead, he fought with faith. At first, it was just one couple. They came to him quietly, afraid, desperate. "Father Valentine," they said, "we love each other, but the empire won't allow us to marry. Can you help us?" Valentine looked at them. He didn't see rebels. He didn't see enemies of Rome. He saw two hearts, ready to become one. He agreed. That night, in the candlelit corner of his small church, he married them in secret. No one knew. No soldier was watching. Only God and love. But it didn't stop there. Word began to spread. Whispers moved across the city. There's a priest who will marry you. Young lovers, desperate to be together, began knocking on his door. He married them in gardens, in cellars, in caves, even inside prison cells. Each ceremony was small, but sacred. No rings, no celebration, only love, only commitment, only Valentine. But nothing in Rome stayed a secret forever. Soon the whispers became rumors, and the rumors became reports. The emperor's men began to investigate. They searched, they spied, until one day, Valentine was caught. He was arrested in the middle of a secret wedding. The young couple ran. Valentine stayed behind. He was dragged through the streets. People watched from their windows, some in fear, some in admiration. He was taken to prison. And there, in that dark, cold cell, he waited for his punishment. Claudius II was told about Valentine. He was angry, but also curious. He sent for Valentine, and they met. It is said that Claudius actually liked him at first. He admired his bravery, his intelligence, his calm nature. "Why do you go against my orders?" Claudius asked. Valentine replied, "Because love comes from God, not from your laws. And love is the highest law." The emperor was furious. He gave Valentine one last chance. "Stop marrying people. Bow to me. Reject your faith, and I will let you live." Valentine refused. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't fight. He simply said, "I would rather die for love than live in fear." That was the moment his fate was sealed. Valentine was sent back to prison to await execution. But even there, his story didn't stop, because in that same prison, another love story was about to begin. Chapter 2. A love story behind bars. The letter that changed history. Valentine was sent back to prison to await execution. But even there, his story didn't stop, because in that same prison, another love story was about to begin. The prison was cold. The walls were made of stone. There was very little light. Only a small window high above the wall allowed a thin line of sunlight to enter during the day. Valentine was no longer free. He had no church. No couples coming secretly at night. No candles. No prayers spoken over newly married lovers. Only silence. Only chains. Only time. But even in that darkness, something about him was different. The other prisoners noticed it. He did not cry. He did not curse the emperor. He did not complain. Instead, he prayed. He spoke gently to the guards. He comforted the prisoners. He remained calm. It was as if the prison could not break him. The man in charge of the prison was a Roman officer. Some stories say his name was Asterius. He had heard about Valentine. He knew this was not an ordinary criminal. This was a priest. A man who married people in secret. A man who refused to obey the emperor. The jailer was curious. One day he decided to meet Valentine face to face. They talked for hours. They discussed faith. They discussed truth. They discussed love. The jailer began to see that Valentine was not dangerous. He was not violent. He was not trying to destroy Rome. He was simply protecting something pure. The jailer had a daughter. She was young, kind, gentle, but she was blind. From birth, she had never seen the sky, never seen her father's face, never seen sunlight, flowers, or the city of Rome. She lived in darkness. When the jailer spoke to Valentine about her, he said, My daughter cannot see. If your God is real, can he help her? This was not just a question, it was a test. The jailer brought his daughter to the prison cell. Imagine this moment. A blind young girl carefully walking into a cold prison room, her father guiding her hand, chains on the wall, a priest sitting in silence. Valentine spoke gently to her. He described the world to her in words. He told her about the blue sky. He explained what the ocean looks like. He described the color of roses. He spoke about sunlight, about birds, about love. For the first time in her life, she began to imagine light. She visited him again, and again, and again. They talked about faith, about hope, about kindness. Some stories say she began to believe in his God. Some stories say she began to love him, not in a romantic way, but in a deep, emotional, spiritual way. A connection formed between them. In the middle of prison walls, a friendship was born. One day, the jailer asked Valentine to pray for his daughter. Valentine placed his hands gently on her eyes. He prayed, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet prayer. And according to legend, something impossible happened. The girl began to see. At first, only light, then shapes, then colors. Imagine her opening her eyes and seeing her father's face for the first time. Imagine seeing the sky for the first time. Imagine the prison cell suddenly filled with tears, not of pain, but of shock and joy. Was it a miracle? Was it legend? Was it a story that grew over time? History cannot prove every detail. But this story survived for centuries, and it changed everything. Even after this, Valentine's fate did not change. The emperor's order remained clear. Execution. February 14th. The date was fixed. The prison became heavier. Time moved slowly. Valentine knew he would die. But he was not afraid. He had already made his choice long ago, when he decided that love was more important than fear. On the night before his execution, Valentine asked for paper and ink. He wanted to write one final message, not to the emperor, not to the church, but to the jailer's daughter, the girl who once lived in darkness, the girl who now could see. He wrote a short letter. Some say it was a goodbye. Some say it was a message of faith. Some say it was filled with encouragement. But at the bottom of the letter, he signed it with 4 simple words. From your Valentine. He did not know that those words would travel across centuries. He did not know that one day, millions of people would write those same words on cards filled with hearts and flowers. He simply wrote them as a final act of love, a final act of connection, a final act of humanity. The next morning, February 14th, around the year 269 AD, Valentine was taken out of his cell. No music, no celebration, only soldiers, only silence. He was executed. A priest who broke the law, a man who married lovers, a prisoner who healed a blind girl, a human who believed love was sacred. His body was buried, but his story was not. Because stories like this do not die. They grow. They travel. They change history. Valentine was gone, executed, buried. Another name in the long history of people who died for their beliefs. But something strange happened after his death. His name did not disappear. In fact, it began to rise. Quietly at first, then loudly, then forever. The man who died in a cold prison cell was about to become a symbol for the most powerful force on earth, love. After Valentine's death on February 14th, around 269 AD, The few who knew him began to share stories. Stories about the priest who married couples in secret. Stories about the girl who was healed. Stories about the final letter signed, "From your Valentine." At first, these were only whispered between Christian families. Remember, Christianity was still illegal in Rome at this time. But even in fear, the story of Valentine was too powerful to stay hidden. Over time, the story spread through word of mouth, passed from family to family across villages and cities. Every time a couple got married in secret, they remembered Valentine. Every time someone believed in love more than law, they remembered Valentine. Then everything changed. In the year 313 AD, the Roman Emperor Constantine signed the Edict of Milan, which made Christianity legal. This changed the world. Churches were built, priests walked freely, and the stories of Christian martyrs were finally told openly. Not in secret, but in sermons. Valentine was not forgotten. He was remembered as a martyr, someone who gave up his life for faith. But Valentine was different. He didn't just preach in public. He protected love in silence. This made him special. The early church began to recognize those who had died for God, and Valentine's name was placed among them. He was officially declared Saint Valentine by the Catholic Church. There wasn't just one Valentine. There were actually multiple Christian martyrs named Valentine in history. One was a priest in Rome, the one we've followed. Another was a bishop in Terni, a nearby city. A third was a missionary in North Africa. But the most famous, the one we remember on February 14th, is the Valentine who performed secret marriages in Rome. His story had everything: a fight for love, a miracle, a letter, a sacrifice. That's the story people held on to. Saint Valentine's body was buried near the Via Flaminia, a major road in northern Rome. Later, a church was built there, called the Church of Saint Valentine. Over the centuries, parts of his body, like bones and relics, were moved to churches in different parts of Europe. Even today, some churches in Ireland, France, and the United Kingdom claim to have relics of Saint Valentine. People visit them every year, not just to pray, but to say thank you. Thank you for protecting love. Thank you for dying for it. Thank you for starting something eternal. You might be wondering, why February 14th? Was it just the date he died? Yes, that's part of it. The church officially marked February 14th as Saint Valentine's feast day, a day to honor his life and sacrifice. But something else made that date more special. In the Middle Ages, many people in Europe believed that mid-February was the start of the mating season for birds. Yes, birds. They believed that in the second week of February, birds found their mates and started building nests. So people began to see this time of year as the season of love. And what better symbol for love than a man who died protecting it? The church combined both, the death of Valentine and the celebration of love in nature, into one powerful tradition: Valentine's Day. In the 1300s, one man helped make Valentine's Day famous. His name was Geoffrey Chaucer, a famous English poet. In his poem Parliament of Fowls, he wrote about birds choosing their mates on St. Valentine's Day. This poem connected love, nature, and Valentine in one beautiful picture. After that, writers and lovers across Europe began writing love poems and notes on Valentine's Day. These were called Valentines, handwritten, full of emotion, sealed with love. And the tradition began. Not with cards from shops, not with chocolates or teddy bears, but with words, with letters, with people expressing their feelings through writing, just like Valentine did from prison. As Europe expanded, the tradition of Valentine's Day grew. Different countries celebrated in different ways, but they all remembered the same message. Love is sacred. Love is brave. Love is worth protecting. Whether in France, England, Germany, or Spain, people began to write valentines, celebrate romantic love, and remember the priest who made it possible. And as time passed, the world slowly forgot the details, but the date remained. February 14th, a day for love, a day for words, a day for brave hearts, a day that belongs to a man who died in silence, but gave birth to something louder than any empire: true love. Chapter 3. From Faith to Flowers: How Valentine's Day Became Romantic and Commercial. During the Middle Ages, love was not public. Most marriages were arranged. Love was quiet, controlled, often hidden. But writers and poets started to change that. They began writing stories of romantic love, passionate, free, full of emotion. Valentine's Day became the one day in the year when lovers were allowed to express how they felt. Even if they could not marry or even meet in public, people began to send secret notes, write romantic poems, drop handmade gifts at doorsteps. It was still quiet, but it was growing. By the 1500s, the word Valentine had become a symbol. To be someone's Valentine meant, you are the one I choose. You are the one I feel something for. The oldest known written Valentine message was sent in 1415. It was a letter from Charles, Duke of Orléans, to his wife. He was in prison at the time, just like Saint Valentine himself had been. He wrote her a poem on February 14th, calling her his Valentine. That letter still exists today in the British Library. By the 1700s, people across England and France were handwriting Valentine's messages on paper, folding them carefully and tying them with string. They weren't buying anything. They were just writing what they felt. No pressure, no money, just love in words. But soon, everything would change. In the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution began. Machines were invented. Paper became cheaper. Printing became faster. And with these changes, Valentine's Day was ready to explode. In 1840s England, a woman named Esther Howland in America also had a big idea. She saw beautiful Valentine cards from Europe and thought, why not sell them? She began producing decorative Valentine's Day cards in large numbers, with lace, drawings, and poems. It became a business, and it worked. People didn't have time to write their own letters anymore, but they still wanted to express love. So they bought cards, and so began the shift, from personal expression to public celebration. By the mid-1800s, Valentine's Day was being celebrated widely in America. Stores began filling shelves with pre-printed cards, red hearts, Cupid symbols, love notes, and envelopes. It was simple at first. But then came the business boom. Companies saw opportunity. Big companies began producing chocolates in heart-shaped boxes, jewelry with romantic messages, perfumes and luxury gifts, teddy bears and silk roses. The celebration moved from paper to products. As the 20th century arrived, things became faster and bigger. Valentine's Day was now on calendars, in school activities, in radio songs, and newspaper ads. Everywhere you looked, you saw, buy this for your Valentine. Show your love with a diamond. Say it with flowers. Love became something to express, but also something to spend on. This shift created two reactions. 1. People loved it. It gave them an easy way to show love. Even shy people could now say how they felt. A gift, a card, a rose, two. Some people criticized it. They said Valentine's Day had lost its meaning. It had become a marketing holiday, focused more on money than on meaning. But even with criticism, one thing was clear. The world wanted to celebrate love. As the century went on, Valentine's Day began to spread far beyond Europe and America. In Japan, women give chocolates to men on February 14th. Then, exactly 1 month later, on March 14th, White Day, men return the favor. In South Korea, there's Valentine's Day, White Day, and even Black Day for singles. In India, it started slow, but young people began celebrating it in urban areas with gifts and dates, even though some conservative groups criticized it. In Mexico, it's called El Día del Amor y la Amistad, the Day of Love and Friendship. It's not just for lovers, it's also for close friends. In Philippines, many couples choose February 14th to get married in mass wedding ceremonies. In Saudi Arabia and some other countries, Valentine's Day was banned at one time because of its Western and romantic associations. But even there, young people quietly found ways to celebrate. Even with different customs, different languages, and different opinions. The message of Valentine's Day is universal. Love matters. Love is worth expressing. Love is brave. Even if the world changes, even if the holiday becomes commercial, even if cards are bought, not written, what truly matters is what you feel inside. Because the heart of this day was never money. It was never gifts. It was never brands. It was a priest who died because he believed love should be free. And that truth still lives in the heart of Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is no longer just a cultural moment. It's an economic one. In countries like the United States, people spend over $25 billion every year on Valentine's Day. Yes, billions. Where does the money go? $2 billion on flowers, $4 billion on jewelry, $3 billion on chocolates and sweets, $2 billion on fancy dinners, hundreds of millions on cards, teddy bears, perfumes, spa gifts, and surprise vacations. Even pets are included. People buy Valentine's gifts for their cats and dogs. The idea of Valentine's Day has entered every level of the economy, from luxury brands to school stationery sets. But how did this happen? It happened because love sells. And when something sells, the world pays attention. In today's world, Valentine's Day is not just about what you feel. It's also about what you post. Couples around the world now share couple selfies, Instagram reels of surprises, proposal videos, how we met love stories, Valentine's Day vlogs and gift unboxings, TikTok challenges about love letters or chocolate making. You may not even celebrate it. But on February 14th, your phone will remind you. It's everywhere. But here's the big question. Is all of this real love? Or is it just pressure? In the past, Valentine's Day was about expression. Now, for many, it has become about expectation. People ask, "What are you doing for Valentine's Day? Did he buy you something? Are you going out or staying in? Did you post your gift online?" For those in relationships, it creates pressure to prove love through expensive gifts or public actions. For those who are single, it creates feelings of being left out, unwanted, or invisible. It's ironic. A day built on the sacrifice of a man who believed in quiet, sacred love has now become a day where people compare, compete, and sometimes even feel pain. But this is not the full story. Because Valentine's Day is still more than marketing. It's still more than trends. It still touches something human inside us. In many parts of the world, Valentine's Day has expanded its meaning. It is now a celebration of friendship, family love, self-love, appreciation for those who matter. In Mexico, it's called Día del Amor y la Amistad, the Day of Love and Friendship. In Finland, it's Ystävänpäivä, which literally means Friends' Day. In schools across the United States, children exchange cards not just with their crush, but with every classmate, to include everyone. In offices, co-workers exchange small gifts. In families, children make cards for their parents and grandparents. It's no longer just about romance. It's about connection. Anyone you care about can be your Valentine. Chapter 4. The real meaning of Valentine's Day. Beyond the gifts, beyond the day, Valentine's Day is no longer just a day. It's a phenomenon. It's an industry. It's a global celebration. From ancient Rome to today's Instagram stories, from handwritten poems to digital gift cards, the journey of February 14th has been massive. But now, let's stop. Let's pause. Let's go deeper. Because before we end this story, we must ask one last question. What does Valentine's Day really mean? Not what the world tells you, not what the advertisements say, but what it truly means. For your heart, your soul, your life. Today, people associate love with roses, gifts, teddy bears, perfumes, and chocolates. But those are symbols. They are not the source. Love doesn't come from money. It doesn't come from how big your gift is, or how many followers like your romantic post. Love is not something you can buy. It is something you give, something you build, something you feel, and something you fight for. Just like Valentine did. Valentine didn't give flowers. He gave his life. He didn't post a reel. He wrote one letter behind prison bars before his execution. 4 words. From your Valentine. That was the first true Valentine's message. And it came from a man who chose love over safety. That is the soul of this day. The Roman Empire thought it could control love. They tried to ban it, silence it, crush it. They had power, they had soldiers, they had laws. But Valentine had faith. He believed that even if you take away the wedding, even if you arrest the priest, even if you kill the man, you can't kill love. Because love is not outside you. It's not in the church, not in the box of chocolates. It's in you. And that can never be banned. That's why, even after 1,700 years, we still speak his name. We still write, "Be my Valentine." We still celebrate love. Because love never dies. You don't need a boyfriend or girlfriend. You don't need someone to take you to dinner. You don't need roses at your door. You can still celebrate Valentine's Day powerfully by choosing to. Call your parents and tell them you love them. Hug your child and say, "You make my life better." Send a message to an old friend and say, "I miss you." Forgive someone who hurt you. Forgive yourself. Look in the mirror and say, "I love who I'm becoming." Because love is not just romance. It is care. It is connection. It is appreciation. It is kindness in a world that can be cruel. It is bravery in a world that often chooses silence. You don't need permission to love. You don't need approval to feel deeply. You don't need a special person to celebrate. You need only one thing: a heart willing to express. That's it. Flowers fade. Chocolates melt. Jewelry breaks. Social media posts are forgotten. But what never fades? The letter you wrote by hand. The time you held someone when they were breaking. The night you listened without judging. The words you said when someone needed them most. The sacrifice you made that nobody saw. That is real love. And real love is not always loud. It is not always beautiful. It is not always perfect. But it is always powerful. Just like the love that started it all. Quiet, behind walls, between a priest and two scared lovers in a time when marriage was forbidden. Before we end this video, I want to say something from my heart to yours. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. But please don't wait for someone to give you flowers. Don't wait for someone to make you feel special. Don't believe that this day is only for couples. Because Valentine's Day is not just about having love. It's about choosing love. Choosing to love your parents, choosing to love your friends, choosing to love those who stood by you, and most of all, choosing to love yourself. If nobody buys you flowers, buy them for yourself. If nobody writes you a message, write one to your future self. If nobody hugs you, hug your heart with kindness. You are worthy, you are enough, and you are someone's miracle. You are someone's peace. And one day, if you haven't already, you will be someone's forever. So this Valentine's Day, don't just celebrate love. Be the reason someone believes in love again. Whether it's a message, a smile, a memory, or even silence filled with understanding. Let it come from a place of real love, not pressure. Because love doesn't live in gifts. Love lives in you. If this story touched your heart, if you learned something new, if you believe in real love, then like this video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel for more beautiful stories that touch both your heart and your English. Happy Valentine's Day. From my heart to yours.